Alright, welcome to your basic introduction and breakdown of GLP-1s. We're going to be talking about what the fuck even is a GLP. Is it from the gods? Is it magic? How does it work? And where do people go wrong with them? And your most common GLPs. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Now, what even is GLP-1? Now, people think GLP-1's just the name of a drug, but it is in fact not. Your body actually has its own GLP-1 and it's called GLP-1. So now this compound's a peptide, which I'm sure you've probably heard thrown about quite a lot now. What that means is it's a compound that is a long chain of amino acids that basically tells your body to do certain things, certain different functions. There's a lot of peptides out there that have various things or that do various things. In this case, we're going to be focusing on GLPs. It's a incretin hormone. What that means is it's a hormone that comes from your gut and it'll get released after you've eaten, and they're going to help lower your blood sugar by increasing insulin, which is what your body uses to control blood sugar. Let's get into how it works. It increases insulin and reduces glucagon. Glucagon is basically the opposite hormone to insulin. People don't really talk about it a lot. Everyone knows insulin, but glucagon does the opposite to insulin. So insulin's gonna decrease your blood sugar, whereas glucagon turns the glycogen that's stored in your liver back into glucose. So it's gonna increase your blood sugar. So when your body detects a decrease in blood sugar, like too low levels, glucagon's gonna start working and it's gonna turn that glycogen back into glucose. GLPs reduce glucagon, which is basically gonna help prevent excessively high blood sugar levels, which was the whole goal. That helps to manage type 2 diabetes. Now, it also slows gastric emptying. And what that means is that when you do eat, the food's gonna be sitting in your stomach for longer. So you're basically gonna feel fuller for longer. And as a result, you just don't get as hungry as frequently, which is pretty sick. You're likely going to end up in a calorie deficit, and as I explained in my last video, calorie deficits are what cause you to lose weight. Also, the improvement of glucose control is also going to make your energy levels a lot more stable. If you ever find yourself feeling like up and down throughout the day, it's gonna stop that. So you're gonna feel consistent energy throughout the day instead. Isn't that wonderful? Where people go wrong with GLPs. So people have this misconception that GLPs are a fat loss drug. They're not. They are not a fat loss drug. They're actually an appetite suppressant. What that means is that if you don't change your eating habits while taking them and you still eat at maintenance or you still eat in a calorie surplus, you're not just going to magically defy the laws of thermodynamics. You're going to maintain or even gain weight regardless of how much you're taking. I think that happened to Jeremy Clarkson. He took Ozempic and gained like 12 pounds or something because he just didn't change his living habits. In order to get the actual desired effect, we're going to need to do point 2, which is actually adjusting our diet. GLPs, think of GLPs as a tool rather than like a solution. They're going to let you more easily adjust to a healthier lifestyle you might otherwise be struggling to do, because some people just genetically have much higher hunger drives that makes not overeating feel like an impossible task. And I know a lot of people get shit for that, so thought I'd just make that clear. It does exist. But to clarify, there's no such thing as people that genetically can't lose weight. That's not a thing. It's just some people have much higher hunger drives, so they struggle to control eating, so they then struggle to lose weight. There's no genetics that causes you to defy the laws of thermodynamics. Otherwise, we just wouldn't need food, which would be solve world hunger, basically. But another thing that people do is they increase their doses too fast. You gotta let your body react to shit before you just hammer it with something it's not used to. This is where most people end up experiencing side effects and they just end up making themselves feel awful. So when you do that, you reach a much higher Cmax than if you were slowly increasing your doses. And what that means is you end up with a much higher peak concentration. So you get a lot more fluctuation in the concentration of the drug, which is going to make things more unstable and make you more prone to side effects. And no one wants that. And the final thing is we touched on, people just not changing their habits. As it shows in this article, People that just take the drug and don't adjust their diet and exercise, they end up gaining the weight back 4 times faster than the people that made the lifestyle adjustments. A lot of the time, the people that make the lifestyle adjustments just never gain the weight back. Don't be lazy, actually put in the work. Otherwise, my diagram here is gonna be you, and you don't want to be that. What are the main GLP-1s? Well, they can be split up into Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3. Different generations have different effects, which can range from like just purely appetite suppression and blood glucose control, all the way to appetite suppression plus improved nutrient partitioning plus increased fat burning, which is kind of sick. Your main generation 1 GLP is the very famous Ozempic, the one that started it all. It works on only the GLP-1 receptors, so basically all it does in terms of effects is suppress your appetite and control your blood sugar levels. Simple as that, no other magic. Your weight loss is going to be entirely from reduced eating. Now, your generation 2 GLP is going to be Tirzepatide, and that introduces effects on the GIP receptors as well as your appetite suppression. You're also going to be getting better nutrient handling, which is pretty cool. So your body becomes more efficient at clearing and using glucose after you've eaten it. That means your body's going to be more responsive to insulin, which is ideal for type 2 diabetes because that is caused by a decrease in insulin sensitivity. What that will feel like is just more stable energy levels throughout the day, and you're not going to have as strong a drive to overeat because you avoid these big peaks and crashes in blood sugar level. And for the final big boss, Gen 3 GLPs, you have Retatrutide. Now, Reta introduces not just the GIP receptor, but also the glucagon receptor activation. Big words here, but I'll make it simple. What that means is that your daily expenditure of calories is going to increase. So, say before you were in a 500 calorie deficit, well, that deficit might now be 650 or 700 without you having to decrease how much you're eating. It also increases fat oxidation, which is the breakdown of fat for energy usage, which is already what happens in a deficit. Reta is going to accelerate that, so you lose even more than you otherwise would have. Is that not awesome? I think that's pretty awesome. Reta hasn't actually been approved for human usage yet. I don't think, but it's making its way through the trials, and I think we're expecting to see it very soon. If I read correctly, sometime mid 2026, which means there'll be better guidance on how to actually use it, more official long-term data on it as well. Where should you start? I'd always recommend with the weakest of them, which is going to be Ozempic. The reason being is it's just the best for the majority of people, because the majority of people only really need mild appetite control. Which is exactly what Ozempic's going to give you. And it's also going to be the best for forcing you to build better habits, because unlike Reta, you're not relying on it for directly increasing the amount of fat you lose. You're just using it to help control your appetite, and then you're still doing all the fat loss yourself. You might be like, well, why would I not just want both, like with Reta? Well, the reason for that, in my opinion, is that Reta is really easy to overdo. Quite a lot of people overdo it. It also promotes this shortcut mentality, which is exactly what you're trying to avoid. So when you have accelerated fat loss, then you will reach your goal faster, which sounds great, but that's less time for you to actually build the habits required to maintain your weight loss after. Now, for dosing, Ozempic has a 7-day half-life. That means it takes 7 days for half of the drug to be eliminated from your body. It can be dosed once a week, and you're going to reach steady state levels in 4 to 5 weeks. Now, what steady state means is that the rate at which it's leaving your body is the same as which it's entering your body. You're not getting these big spikes and dips, because we don't want that. But in order to avoid those spikes and dips initially, you're going to want to gradually increase the dosages. Now, the dosages that I put there are just the guidelines, but ideally you want to use the lowest possible dose that works for you. There's no point in, one, just wasting your money by taking shit you don't need, and two, there's no point in hammering your body excessively because that's just going to cause side effects, and that is not what we want. For side effects, it's pretty common for people to experience nausea. If I remember correctly, I think it's around like 44% of people experienced some nausea, but not enough to where they're like, yeah, screw this, you know? But you can mitigate that with slowly increasing the dosages, so make sure to do that. You might see reduced appetite as a side effect right there and be like, well, isn't that the whole point? No, technically it's not, because GLPs were primarily developed for diabetes control. We just noticed that it also seemed to reduce appetite, and we were like, oh shit, let's use this to get lean as fuck. That's how it became a weight loss drug. Now, what if Ozempic just ain't cutting it? Well, we have Tirzepatide. Now, Tirzepatide is going to be best for people that just do not respond well to Ozempic. That can be for various reasons, whether it's just your body flat out doesn't like having it in its system, or you get too many side effects from it, which is basically the same as your body not liking it, or maybe Ozempic just isn't strong enough for you, or you got larger fat loss goals, so you need something that's a level up. Now, I already explained earlier the differences. Just to cover it again, Tirzepatide's gonna improve how your body actually uses nutrients. So it's gonna make your blood sugar levels more stable, which is gonna make you feel more stable. And in terms of side effects, the side effects among GLPs are pretty much all the same. There's just an introduction of some more notable fatigue than with Ozempic. However, Ozempic can still very much cause fatigue. So what do we do to reduce that? Well, we titrate up. There's the dosing schedule for Tirzepatide. According to the guidelines, I think Tirzepatide has a 5-day half-life, so it's going to be a little bit more unstable for weekly dosing than Ozempic is. So you could split your dosages into 2 separate ones, but from what I've seen in the studies and in practice, it's just really not an issue to do it once a week. Now, last but not least, the top dog. Retatrutide is going to be best for just absolute maximum fat loss. It's been shown to make people lose up to like 24% of their body weight. If you're 200 pounds, that's like almost 50 pounds you could lose. Pretty substantial. But again, this entirely depends on your habits. So your dieting still has to be in check, and you gotta be doing exercise to actually fully utilize the power of this, because Reta is pretty common in bodybuilding now because it makes it a lot easier to push into those single digit body fats. Obviously that's off-brand usage and it's not what it's actually supposed to be for. Now for side effects, again, you got nausea and fatigue, but also more notable gastrointestinal discomfort. But again, all of the GLPs kind of have the same side effects. Reta, surprisingly, even though it's probably the strongest, it seems to be the most well tolerated. Now with Reta, you can very easily suppress your appetite way too hard. Like you just genuinely lose all interest in food, and eating can become very forced and just almost painful to do because your body's just getting every signal to be like, we don't want food. So you really gotta be careful with Reta. The dosing schedules, there aren't on any official guideline because it hasn't officially been put out for usage, but that's what I extracted as the best protocol from studies. Again, if you're getting what you want from 6 milligrams, then don't go up to 8. There's just no need. Also, still the same weekly dosing. I think its half-life is 6 milligrams, so a little bit more unstable than Ozempic and a bit more stable than Tirzepatide, but nothing notable. Yeah, that's your rundown for GLPs. I wanted to make it pretty simple. No point in wasting your time, so thank you for watching. And if there's anything else that you'd like to see or any questions you want answered, then put them in the comments and I'll get to it. Love you guys.